What inspired me to talk about this is that I had a couple consultations this week and my clients were like, where's all the money? The thing I know is that you make music not to have it fail. And you don't know which song is going to be a hit. You just don't. And the thing that came up multiple times this week is because you don't want to lose out on certain royalties because you failed to register on the applicable platform, we're going to talk about that as a piece of today's video, how artists are actually making money with their songs. And what came to mind, because I saw this update about Snoop Dogg, right? So Snoop had a couple things this year, but one of them is that he's duking it out with Spotify, or he was. At the beginning of the year, he was just really frustrated. He's like, I've made like $45,000 for an accumulation of 1 billion streams on Spotify. He's like, there's a real disconnect here. And he got really frustrated, so he ended up dropping one of his albums at the beginning of the year on a completely different platform, Tune.fm. He's like, forget Spotify. But the update is that actually him and Spotify have come back together and they're friends again. But where this mattered is that with Snoop, he did this interview that I covered a couple years ago. And it was with $1 million worth of game. And he disclosed that he had not received a publishing check ever, like at the height of his music career. And at that time, I'm like, holy crap. Like, to me, that indicated one of two things. And this applies to you. One of two things is either you have really bad deals and you have people who are taking advantage of you, or you have companies who are taking advantage of you, or you don't know the music business yet. And so when he kind of talked about that, and then this update that happened recently and that was announced recently that everything's cool now, the quote, and this was from Bloomberg, Snoop Dogg now understands the complexity of royalties, which was after meetings with Spotify executives. Now, to me, that sounds kind of insulting, but again, it just gets me like, okay, you need to understand the music business one way or another. And that's how, when you do have a hit song, you're already going to be set up for success, because it's not, you need to understand how to collect your royalties or where they come from or what to do after you have the song that's already popular. No, you go and you get this situated right now, because when that thing hits, you've already done the work. So that's why we're talking about this. So in today's video, we're going to cover three things. One, when and how you get paid, right? Your music royalties. Two, my best method to make money from your next song release. And this is the thing I'm so excited about. I love telling people about this. It works very well for me and everybody else. If you want to be a successful independent artist, you got to do this, okay? And then number three, if you need to do a royalty audit. Another very popular conversation that I have with clients, which is insert platform, distributor, digital service provider, whoever it is. They have my royalties. I can't get a hold of them. What should I do? We're going to talk about all that. If it sounds good, and because this channel is dedicated to you and your music career, be sure to subscribe right now. Let's go. Let's go. All right, where I have to start. When you do a project with anybody, you got to have a contract. And so the contract is where everything needs to start. And sometimes you guys have team members, you might have a manager, hopefully you have a lawyer that can help with this, but you gotta paper whatever the agreement is, because this is how you get paid. And this is how you get paid in someone tries screwing you over. Well, you have a piece of paper that says what the deal was. And so it actually allows you to go over someone else's head to a music platform, to a distributor, okay? And so this is where it becomes very helpful, but it determines how and when you actually do get paid. It's important. And it also proves what you guys agreed to, okay? Couple pro tips. I'm a real lawyer. I've done this for a very long time. And so when it comes to negotiating your deals, rapid fire, you need to determine who owns the song, okay? You need to make sure that you have some kind of ownership in the song whenever possible. And if it's your project, you should own the entire thing. So what you can do with people who work with you, music producers, whoever, that you can give them profit participation, okay? You give them a chance to collect some of the money that comes in, but they don't have ownership in the thing. If you are collaborating with someone and you want to have co-ownership, okay, that's fine. But I just, whenever possible, make sure you actually have a piece of the pie. You own some of it. That's going to give you the best result in most situations. So that's number one. Number two, beyond keeping a percentage, you need to try to have administrative control over your stuff. Okay, let me put it this way. When there's a bunch of people involved, and hopefully you are organized and you can keep track of stuff, but if you can have administrative power, meaning you're the one who decides when it gets distributed, the money comes into the bank account for you, like that gives you a lot of power and control. So in negotiating your best contract ever, keep those in mind. And then one of the other biggest questions that comes up, you might be a music producer. What's a percentage that I should ask for? Any collaborators? singers, songwriters, music producers, here's what you need to know. If you're fully independent, there's no majors involved, and it's you and John, well, you and John should do 50-50. That's very common. Where people start getting confused is that they hear about the major label deals and they're like, well, the producer gets like between 1% and 3%. And that's industry standard for major label deals, that you would get a very, very small percentage. That doesn't apply for independent deals. So my pro tip is you ask for what you want. And the worst that can happen is that they say no. And it's helpful to have a lawyer to also ask on your behalf if that's something that you could use some assistance with. All right. So in a nutshell, that's the contract piece of how we kind of get you in the best situation to make sure that you are making your money. Because if ever a problem comes up and you give me a call, I go, great. Where's your contract? And that's going to help us the best. Now, you could call me and we can try to figure it out from emails and stuff like that. But I promise the contract is going to make your life so much easier. And it's going to ensure we can get you paid a lot faster. Now, moving on. Well, when it comes to your royalties, okay, the first thing you need to know is there are two sides of your songs. And you may have heard, someone explain at one point, there are two copyrights in any song. Well, there's also two sides of the song. There's the song itself. If I took my song and I played it on a guitar and then I went and played it on a piano to a live audience, it's the song itself, the chords, the lyrics, the word. And then there is the recording. So once we actually go in the studio and hit the record button, we have the recording, which we commonly refer to as the master. So there are royalties that come from both sides of the song and in multiple different ways, which we're going to talk about. Rapid fire. So first and foremost, if you distribute your music to music platforms, you distribute through a music distributor. There is no other way to get your music on music platforms. So you go through a distributor. The major ones are CD Baby, TuneCore, Symphonic. I don't even want to say some of the ones on the channel, to be honest, because we have our issues with them. But there are music distributors. They put the music on platforms like Spotify, Amazon Music. Those platforms generate streaming royalties, and then those get paid to the distributor, and then those distributors pay you. So one vessel of your earnings are going to be through streaming royalties. Now, one little pro thing I'm going to do for you as we discuss these different platforms is to tell you, when do you get paid? This is a really important piece, and it matters because if you fail to get your stuff registered on these platforms, you may get cut off from getting your royalties. So that's why we're paying special attention to this. So with a distributor, you sign up, you click the button that says I agree to your terms, and then that's when your contract starts. That's when the music will then get distributed. So the distributor is going to pay you quarterly. This matters. Please pay attention to this in that you get paid after the fact, and usually about 3 months after the money has actually been earned. So when you guys decide to jump ship and go to another distributor at some point, you gotta make a little note that after you terminate the relationship, you need to send, whoever is doing it, a communication to the distributor that you want those royalties, because these distributors are sneaky. They won't give you those royalties because they'll say, well, John, you're not on our music distribution platform anymore, so we're not going to pay you. So we don't like any of that funny business. So keep that in the back of your minds, but it is quarterly. Okay. So number one, you're through your distributor streaming royalties. Number two is through your PRO. We've talked about this, the performance rights organization, different in every country. It's a SOCAN in Canada. It's PRS in UK. In the United States, we have 6. Some of the most popular being BMI, CSAC, ASCAP. So when do you get paid from PROs? This is a big one. And you don't make any of the money if you weren't registered. So let me say it again. If your song gets placed on a popular TV show, if you weren't registered with your PRO at the time that the money accrued, no one knew who to send it to, right? So it's the public performance royalties. So this is a big one on why you guys need to go and make sure that you're registered with one of the PROs, right? Or the one that represents your country. And you want to do this because you get cut off. If you haven't done this and your music's been out for a year, 5 years, then you likely have lost the right to those royalties. And at least for us here in the United States, the reason is because there's 6 different companies that are entrusted to do this. It's not just like one entity that represents everybody. So timing matters on this, but then also similar kind of industry standard is quarterly. That's what your PRO is likely doing. It's a little bit different depending on the country, but the point just being that you get paid some months after the money has actually accrued. So that's number 2. Number 3 is SoundExchange. Now the good news about SoundExchange is that on the when you get paid, SoundExchange is the only entity that collects the non-interactive streaming revenue. So this is like for internet radio, right? So we say Pandora, Sirius XM. It collects on behalf of the right holders for the master recording, right? Because we had said there's 2 sides of this when we were just talking about The PROs, they collect on this side for the song, the publishing, the composition. Over here for SoundExchange, they're collecting for the masters. Now, all you need to know is we're making a list of all the places you need to register. That's the bottom line, but I'm going to explain how this works. The great news is that on SoundExchange, it's the only entity that does this specific type of royalty. And so when you go and you register, even if you didn't know about it, it's been like a decade, any royalties that are payable to you, once you actually register your music, you get paid. So perfect. If there's no kind of timing rush, so to speak. Okay. Now, I'll save this for a different video, but the royalties are split up, just so you know, for SoundExchange. They split it up so that 50% is paid to the sound recording owner. So this, if you're independent fully, is probably you, right? You own your music, so that 50% still goes to you. But often it's 50% that goes to the record label, if the record label owns the music. And then 45% goes to the featured artist, which is whoever was featured on the song, right? Who's the superstar frontrunner? And then 5% goes to, and I just have to try not to get nauseous when I say this, 5% goes to AFM SAG-AFTRA, which is a fund that the government set up. And we discovered that this 5% fund that we've all been paying into is almost impossible to actually access, which is pretty frustrating. So in any case, for SoundExchange and making sure you get paid your non-interactive streaming revenue, that's number 3. Number 4, the Mechanical Licensing Collective. This is specific to the United States, okay? But when do you get paid? As soon as you join, you do retroactive have the ability to go and collect your mechanical royalties. For you music business nerds, back in the day, right, when we used to reproduce music, we would duplicate, right? We would make cassettes and CDs, and there would be a duplication process, which is this mechanical royalty word, where it kind of came from, okay? So what happens now is that when you go to Spotify and you click the button and it starts playing the song, that is the point where there's this mechanical royalty because there's been a duplication of the song, just so you know, that's how it works. But in any case, there's mechanical royalties, and those get paid, again, from the digital service providers, Spotify, Amazon Music, okay? But it's different. And the thing I'm pointing out here is that these are all different types of royalties, and we're going to make sure that you are collecting all of them and you're not missing it because you were kind of late to the game getting registered. So that's number 4. And then number 5, this is kind of a little, you don't have to do this one, but I like it because I am kind of lazy. Songtrust collects internationally for your performance rights organization stuff, right? So if you're not registered in, UK and you want to collect your performance royalties there, this is the company that can go and do it for you. They can even collect it for you in your own country. But I would just say, don't give a percentage to a company when you could just go and literally do it yourself in the country you reside. Does that make sense? So use them for the everything else, but maybe not for your own collection. They also register with Mechanical Licensing Collective, and so that just saves some steps. I like that. All right, now I promised that the important thing that we're going to be talking about is my best method for making money on your next release. Successful independent artists do just this. And what is it? If you're finding this video very helpful, please make sure to share it with someone. Truly, if you just want to message it to someone, email it to someone, this is how we grow. We don't pay for any advertising for this channel whatsoever. It really is just for you guys. So what's my best method? This is what I like to call successful artists sell before they stream. All right, so it's the direct to fan model. This is how it works. For your next release, you're not going to blow the entire thing out. If you have an album, do not release that entire album. If you have an EP, do not release the entire EP. So we are going to piecemeal it. I want you to do one single, okay? And you will drop the entire thing. That's all great. But I want you to remember that as part of this being a multimedia enterprise that you are building, what you do is you make music and then eventually you have to put some kind of video to it. So it's multimedia in that you're making music and videos. That's what you do. And you do it in certain types of genres and you're so passionate about it and you're really good at your craft, and that's all great. But you have to sell it, and you want to sell it before you actually put it on streaming platforms. And the reason why this works so effectively is because even those who have the very small fan bases that are principally built out of family and friends, they make a killing because they give their real followers, their real fans, an opportunity to support them in a way that is not possible if you just drop it on Spotify. So let me explain. The way that I would recommend is you're going to make your song available to be purchased as a digital download through one of 2 methods. There's more than 2, but I'm going to tell you 2. The first is just Bandcamp, right? A lot of you know Bandcamp, you use Bandcamp, and so they have all of the features and the nuts and bolts for you to sell your music built into this platform. Upside, a lot of the work's done for you, okay? So it makes distribution a lot easier. People feel comfortable using a platform that makes them feel like it's a trustworthy thing, okay? That's great. And then what is the commission? Well, there is a commission. So 15% of anything that you sell goes goes to the platform. So it's a trade-off. Use the platform, you pay 15%. And then I believe if you hit 5,000 in sales, it drops down to 10%. So that's one option. The other option, which I like to use, is to use your website. So your website, you have full control over. You get all your earnings, right? And so I love Wix. It's very easy. It's very intuitive. But whatever website platform you use, the idea is you sell your song directly on your platform and you do a pay what you want model. Now, Bandcamp also does this, and that's why we're mentioning Bandcamp, because you can have people pay whatever they think your music's worth. And that's interesting. When you have someone paying $50, $100, $200 for a song because that song meant so much to them, it's an amazing thing that you can allow people to really support you. So it's a pay what you want kind of model. And this is why we sell before we stream. All right. So you use the website, and I did this for my last song, Say To Me, and same thing. I just had some incredible support. And so I know that this will work for you guys, and I've seen it work across the board. So you do a minimum of $1, okay? And then beyond that, people can pay whatever they want. Now, the cost is you're now paying a subscription to maintain a website. And for Wix, the last I checked is between like $17 and $35 a month. So you have to be very intentional. You don't want to just set this up and then drop like one single and then never do anything again, and then you're paying for a subscription, okay? So the 15% rip for one of these platforms might make more sense versus you paying a subscription. But for example, I had one of my clients use Wix, this exact method, and sold just shy of 100 units, just less than 100 people to go and get the digital download. And they did close to $800. Okay, so that's really amazing. So I don't know if you made $800 on the last song that you put up on Spotify, but that's why I love this tactic. Now, we're going to talk about royalty audits. So if you run into a problem and you need to deal with someone who is withholding your royalties or otherwise not being super clear, and you think that there's something funny, we're going to get to that, but a couple pro notes on what I talked about, okay? Along this entire journey of basically building you up so that we can make sure that you're actually making money. And when you, for example, decide to do a drop of a song on your website, on Bandcamp, whatever, the way that you can ensure that you're actually making money from it is that you have done audience harvesting. Okay, this is also something that I talk about all the time. Audience harvesting is you have to be gathering emails. You have to have a way to actually reach out to your fans when something drops. And the cool thing is that whereas with social media, you have no way of controlling when you do a post who is going to see it. And often of all your followers, like 5% of people will see it, right? So the cool thing about having emails and having an email list is that as you get 100 followers, 1,000 followers, and grow and grow and grow, you have a guaranteed email list of people who are interested in literally what you're doing and will support you. Okay. So pro tip, make sure you are doing audience harvesting and building that email list. If you have never done this before and you're 10 years into your career, I don't care. You need to start right now. I also wanted to mention there might be a whole new type of royalty coming to you guys soon. I talked about this recently, but the Living Wage for Musicians Act of 2024. So the update was that New York Council voted that New York is going to support this. They have to get a whole bunch of more support from a whole bunch of more states, but this is a federal act that would potentially get you more royalties from music platforms. And they would go to a different government agency that would get set up, and we'd have to go register and all this stuff, which I'll let you know if that becomes a thing. But that's kind of cool, right? So that's the other pro tip. And then lastly, should you do publishing through a distributor? I've seen this come up. So through your guys' music distributors, there's all kinds of upsells, and they're like, let us do the publishing for you. Let us do the content ID monitoring of YouTube videos. And they'll take a rip. It'll be 15%, 20%. That's what I've seen. This is where one of the problems is coming up, because you guys will opt in for them to do, for example, the publishing for you, and then you terminate. And then they don't terminate. And then you have to call me. So where I would just say is the reason I'm going through this is because I want you to know that these are platforms you directly can and should go sign up for so that you can collect 100%. I've heard a couple people, because someone else mentioned, like, I think it was Beatport. And they're like, yeah, Beatport does publishing registration. And again, I'm like, that's cool, because what they're doing is having you fill out a form versus you literally going to BMI and filling out the form. And I just want to encourage you guys to not give up any of your royalties, because we're trying to make you money here. All right, so royalty audits. You have a problem. Someone is not reporting correctly. They're not paying you correctly. Yeah, I've seen this come up again in the opt into our pro publishing. So first and foremost, you have to send termination. You have to say stop. And we need to check and make sure that you have the right to say stop, because sometimes these agreements are like, you're signing for a year, you're signing for 2 years. So you do want to find the agreement, which is usually publicly listed. If it's one of these kind of just you opt in real quick, it's usually posted publicly on this company's website. That's the good news. And then if you can't find it and you're not sure, then I say just send the notice and they can tell you if you got it wrong, okay? But before you ever delete your account, before you ever take your music and move it somewhere, whatever the situation is, please make sure you actually go into your account and download all of your statements. Download all of the different documents and things that are in your account that you may and probably will lose access to once the relationship gets terminated and goes awry, okay? Because if everything explodes at some point and you need to call me up, then that's the stuff I need. I need to see those statements. So make sure that you're just saving it before you kind of do the final termination thing. And then either way, if you're not terminating and you're just trying to get an answer, you're trying to get clarity, you haven't received a statement from the company that you're working with, they're required to, you got to send a demand letter. You can do this on your own. Now, obviously, having an attorney send it for you, I promise, is like a million times more effective because of the letterhead. The lawyer, if they're good, they're going to make strong arguments and they're going to give strong cases and stuff like that to support it and all that stuff. It's a lot scarier when a lawyer sends a letter, but nonetheless, you can advocate for yourself and you should do something. Okay. So you send the letter and you make the demand. And sometimes the demand is for documents. It might be a demand for, an accounting, a release of funds. So just be clear on what it is and make sure you designate when the company has to respond to you. Really important. And like I said, you have to make sure you terminate the relationship. And here's my pro tip. This is the how do you do a royalty audit yourself. It's this way. You send a demand letter, you get the documents, you look at all the things, right? So you kind of do your own investigation. But there are ways for us to do this where it's an actual forensic accounting of their books. So that's what I call the nuclear option escalation kind of step. So DIY, if you need to reach out to these companies, the way you do it, and I hope you made it to the end. If you did, you should drop, what should you say? Sunny day. If you made it this far, I know you're serious about your career, and that's why I do this video for those of you who actually made it this far. So drop a comment and you'll say sunny day. But the way that you find a legal contact email is that you go into the terms of service for that company, which again is publicly listed, and you do a little control F, right? Or you do a little find function for the symbol at, right? Like you're sending an email, and then you will find the legal email to reach out to the company to send your demand letter to. I'm Top Music Attorney, and I'll see you guys on the next one.